Ambassador, I'm going to read a tweet from the Vice President. Mike Pence just tweeted, "I will always be grateful to my friend, General H.R. McMaster, for his service as POTUS National Security Advisor. Congratulate him on a job well done. He departs with our highest respect for his service to this administration and his heroic service on and off the battlefield. Thank you, H.R., and God bless." The Vice President followed up with a congrats to you. His tweet. Do we have the tweet here? Here we go. Congratulations to new National Security Advisor John Bolton. Ambassador Bolton is a highly respected American patriot who will bring decades of experience to our national security team. With him as National Security Advisor, POTUS will continue to keep America strong and secure. Agreed.
Well, I appreciate Vice President Pence's kind words about me, and I endorse 100% what he said about HR.
Now, I was looking at tape just after they announced this big announcement happened. I think Martha was playing it, or maybe it was on Special Report. They had videotape of when he announced H.R. McMaster as his national security advisor, and then he had some good words for you. He said, "Oh, we're also going to be talking in an advisory capacity with Ambassador John Bolton. He's a great guy. He's got a lot of great ideas." Were you considered for this back then?
Yes, I think it was pretty well known. In fact, I remember seeing H.R. down at Mar-a-Lago as I think he was coming in for his interview as I was leaving. So we go back a long way on that.
Now, in those tweets I just read, the word congratulate came up twice. This was a big scandal this week. There was the memo, the Russian memo that said, "Do not congratulate Putin for his victory." And the president did congratulate him. First of all, is there a scandal there? You're going to be National Security Advisor. Your job is going to be to advise the president. Is there any scandal in the president ignoring the advice he gets and doing what he wants to do?
No, that's why he got elected. You know, it's not the function of political officials, whether it's the president or his nominees across the executive branch, to do what their subordinates tell them to do. If that were the rule, then you could just have a bunch of GS-15s running the entire government. The president's entitled to do what he wants to do. That's what the Constitution says. The executive power resides in the president. And if he wants to say congratulations to Vladimir Putin, number one, I don't see anything particularly significant about it one way or another. It's a courtesy. He had other subjects he wanted to bring up. The election had just taken place. I mean, my goodness, American presidents congratulate monarchs when they take the throne. I haven't noticed the American monarch recently. We don't view that as a form of government we admire. You say things to be courteous in diplomatic context. What I think was outrageous was the leak of the notes. And I just think that this is the kind of disservice that some people think they're called upon to do. I think it undercuts faith in our system of government. I think it discourages foreign leaders from being open and candid with the president because they're afraid their conversation will appear in the press. And it discourages advisors from offering their advice candidly if they think somebody for their own motives is going to leak it. We have got to find a way, whether you're Democrat or Republican, we've got to find a way to stop this kind of leaking.
Are you going to be able to do anything about leaks as National Security Advisor? Is that something it's going to be in your purview?
Well, it certainly will be to in the national security staff, and I think the President, Chief of Staff Kelly, and many others in the executive branch have made it clear they don't like this. Honestly, President Obama didn't like leaks from his administration either. It interferes with the President's ability to come to conclusions after discussing all the options in private, and it really, the leaker is taking on himself or herself a kind of moral authority that they just don't have. It's not for them to put in jeopardy the other 300+ million American citizens just because they think their morality is better than everybody else's.
Okay, you've been pretty harsh on Russia, especially with this poisoning in the news. Are you going to press the president to go harder on Russia? He was even, I think we had another comment this week when he said, what's wrong with getting along with Russia? He's kind of sticking with that line. Are we going to go harsher?
Well, again, you know, I've said what I've said about Russia, about these incidents. God bless. Quote another interview if you'd like. I'd love to hear it again. But that's what I said in my capacity as a private citizen and in a capacity as a government official advising the president, really, I can't be commenting on what I said before, because what I said before really doesn't matter going forward. It's what the president decides based on what all of his advisors recommend and what he decides.
You're a Fox News contributor right now. I think you are still a contributor as we speak, right? Are you going to have to give that? You're going to have to give that up pretty soon.
Well, I'll have to resign. I think the president told me I'm starting on April the 9th, and if that's the case, I suppose I'll resign from Fox on April the 8th or something like that. But you know, I could hear after this show. Who knows, Tom?
Ambassador, I want to ask about, you had the meeting at the White House today. Does the president want? Does he want a little? It seems like he wants a little challenge from you. He's about to hire someone he doesn't exactly agree with on a lot of issues, okay, without quoting some of your past positions. Did he express to you he's looking for a different view?
Well, I think he's a man comfortable in his own skin in debating these issues, and I think that others who advise on the National Security Council will have their views as well. And you know, it's a fundamental tenet of belief in a system of freedom of expression for the country as a whole, but I think also in government decision making that the clash of ideas brings you closer to the truth. And so that's obviously what the president wants. He hears the pros and cons. He hears people argue it out. I'm a litigator by trade myself, and I think that's what we believe the trial process does as well. So I don't think there should be anything surprising in saying he wants to hear advisors who can articulate different positions to allow him to help facilitate him making his final decision.
Ambassador, word on the street is the president's not a huge fan of facial hair. What if he asks that the stash has to go? What do you think?
It did not come up. That I will reveal.
Ambassador, thanks for taking the heat. Not many people have the guts to step up to Tom Shalhoub, so thanks for being here.
Well, just remember, I was the president of Red Eye once. Just keep that in mind.
Once and always, Ambassador.